Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jesse Noriega, Executive Director at the Greater Quad Cities Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, here for our next episode of Bridging Cultures, Building Businesses. Thank you for coming along. Today, I have a new guest host. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Raymond Freeman. I'm with Country Financial. I have my own insurance agency. I also am a board member on the Quad Cities Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And we have our special guest, Sangeetha Rayapati. I'll let her make her own introduction.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you. I've been a Quad Citian for 24 years, going on 25 here. But I think you brought me in because I'm an elected leader. I'm the mayor of Moline and have been for 4 years and just reelected recently. So I'm happy to be with you all.
Thank you. Well, more than that, though, the elected leader part, you also have a regular job.
Oh, yeah, I'm a regular person, too. Yeah. So I went to school for a little while. I actually started as a nurse professionally. So I worked as a nurse for 3 years while I went to grad school for music. And I've taught at Augustana for 24 years after doing that graduate work in music. And so I'm a professor at Augustana in the music department and have held a lot of different leadership positions there. And most recently, I'm on this big committee that does all the tenure and promotion recommendations. And I'll be leading that next year.
Nice.
So that's a big part of my job at the moment. It's pretty administrative.
Nice. So this is breaking news then. That means at our next big mixer, you get to play an instrument and perform for us.
No. I mean, they didn't make me. They asked me to sing the Star Spangled Banner or the national anthem at the start of our 150 celebration a couple years ago. And that was terrifying.
I can imagine.
I mean, it's very different than all other kinds of performing that I have done in the past. And I kind of pledged not to do that again in public.
And do you play multiple instruments too?
I play piano. Yeah, I play for my students quite a bit, but
nice.
That's not my specialty. It's vocal music. So.
Okay.
Also, you're giving out free vocal lessons. That's what I heard.
Well, that's my teaching job is actually that when I'm not in a classroom with an actual course, then I'm teaching lessons.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, see, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that. That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, I am also a business person as well. I launched an LLC just in March of this year called Blue Roots Solutions. So I do strategy and consulting work for campaigns and organizations and launched my first client just last week. So.
Oh, good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Well, great. Well, since you now, like I said, you launched your LLC and obviously being the mayor of Moline.
Yeah.
What do you think about the atmosphere for small businesses in the Quad Cities and particularly Moline?
I think it's really exciting. I think one thing I've learned, before I started as mayor, I was on the school board. So I have been aware and learning more and more and engaging with issues in our community around the economy, especially, right? And what you learn is that it is a lot more successful to grow your own business here in the Quad Cities than to try to attract like more Fortune 500 companies here, right? We might get a big warehouse, or processing plant or something like that. But the attraction of that high level of a business is a lot harder. So you realize early on then, or very quickly, that growth happens in small business. And so I've been excited that we're able to focus on opportunity and connection as like additional goals for the city, like in our strategic plan. I sort of adopted those as my own like mayoral goals. And so it's great to see that those seeping into the larger strategic plan. And like just on Tuesday, we passed a reform to our revolving loan fund, right? To do micro loans, right, up to $10,000 without the requirements for job creation. It's now about job retention, right? So like that provides an awesome environment to help small businesses feel supported, have resources beyond what the bank is able to provide, et cetera. So I'm excited about that. And also when we see the ebbs and flows of the economy locally or at the national level, my mind turns to like everything is a local solution, right? We have to turn to what's in our backyard. We have to support the people that are in our backyard. So I'm really excited. I mean, during my first term, we used the American Rescue Plan dollars to launch the Boost program, over $1 million that specifically went to small businesses. Really? I've been going to ribbon cuttings throughout Moline. You know, the latest one was a really cool creative knitting place called I'm blanking, Fiber and Stem. Fiber and Stem. They had a lot of they have a lot of knitting products and other craft products that are kind of niche and unique in an older part of the city, right? And it's also near Cut Above, which is a woodworking place. And I just thought, oh, this would be so cool to transform an older neighborhood that does need a lot of love and upgrading, and like make it this focus for creatives. You know, that would be really, really cool. So I get excited about opportunity, and I think we're trying to help be partners in that. So I think it's a good atmosphere.
Well, you know, and I will say myself that, so I'm a lifelong Quad Cityan here. I'm primarily East Moline, but been in the Quad Cities my whole life. And I don't know if it's my age or now the position I'm in or what it may be, but even when I was, you know, I've always been in the corporate world, even here working, whether it was through the casinos or a collection agency that I was with, I have not noticed as much movement and shaking and things going on with you and all the other mayors in the area that have really became more visible. Really. And even you, like, you joked about it earlier, yeah, I've been doing all this. I mean, I see you everywhere. And I couldn't tell you throughout the years who some of the mayors even were other than by name. But I could have never put a face to it. So it's really nice to see you and many of the other mayors out there, you know, pushing along. And then with the new mayors, hopefully that sets a good precedent. See, they got to keep up, because it is nice to see that you're reachable. You're there.
Yeah, just last night I had a what we call a listening post. I started those 2 years ago. And then not 2 years ago. I started them 4 years ago. And 2 years ago, people stopped coming. You know, we would advertise it, and I would have one older person sit there with me and listen and chat and converse, whatever. And we shifted then at that point, and we focused on the older people, and they had individual ward meetings, and they were bringing in staff to be able to answer questions directly as well. And that worked really well for year 3 into 4 of my first term. And so now, you know, as we start a second term, as we get going to redo our strategic plan, it's like the perfect time to be accessible, to like be alongside the formal like surveys that we're doing of our businesses and residents, and just get a lot of feedback, get people's ideas. It was really a pleasure to talk to the more than a handful of people that were there last night. And I think we just live in a digital age, right? If you're not sharing what you're doing online in some format, like, you're right, people don't know. We might be in a digital age, but news media has changed and news coverage has changed, and resources to be there, you know, like I think the person who covers Moline also covers some other cities and definitely has some other specialties besides municipal news, you know? So they're doing more with less. So we have to kind of fill in the gaps, if you will, for people to know who we are and know that they have a voice. Like, I have another job, you know, I don't have to be a mayor, right? I can.
It was a choice.
It was a choice, and I like to see things evolve. I like to try to that's what people don't really understand is what carries over from being a professor is that as a professor, you're always seeking to bring out the best in your students, right? Help them achieve their highest potential. That's literally what you do as a mayor for your town. And so I can't do that if I don't know what people are thinking or I'm not connected to them, right? So I don't need to hide is what I'm saying, right? Because it's about service.
So did you have any difficulties with starting your first term? Because you said 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
That was like in the height of COVID. That's when everybody was social distancing.
We campaigned during the height, right? During the second half of 2020 and into 21. But there were a lot of resources out there for candidates to sort of find ways to do that safely. Also using your digital platforms to get to people, right? And then masking was a way to keep everybody safe. I did not get sick that whole time, taking over in 21, it was also a time for opportunity because the American Rescue Plan dollars came out and we got a significant chunk. I think it was $20.7 million. And so right away at the beginning of my term, we were making decisions about where this needed to go. And of course, we needed to talk to the people. So that is how the listening post started. The very first one was to figure out what was the most important. And I think there were like over 60, close to 80 people at that first one. We did it outdoors. We did a lot of doing things outdoors in the beginning.
No, that's amazing.
So that was an interesting time, and it's very different now.
Well, and now, like you said, now it's during your second term and everything. I think it's just crazy seeing how much the Quad Cities in general has changed. And, so like my wife is from St. Louis and she still considers it such a small town. I'm like, you wouldn't believe what it was even just 15 years ago. Like the things that have happened and come here and the growth has been pretty amazing. And she's even seeing, she loves the area too, as far as like, she's like, I would not want to raise our kids in St. Louis. It's so much better to raise them here. No knock against St. Louis other than the Cardinals. She's a Cardinals fan. I'm not. I like the Chicago team, so that doesn't go well. But
go Cubs.
But minus that, she's like, it's such a great environment to raise our kids and so forth. And obviously every city has trouble with crime and everything, but I do, see, like you had talked earlier with me off the camera about some of the things that you're doing with the youth and trying to get them more involved and seeing some stuff that happens. And I love that you're not just worrying about the small businesses or the large corporations. It must be the teacher side of you or something, but you're worrying about the next generation, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, again, there is a difference between folks who are in elected positions for power or those to make a difference. Like you can tell what based on the priorities and what they spend their time on and the policies that come out and all that kind of stuff. And so everybody comes to this work maybe from a little different angle, but there is that dividing line, and that's just how I see it. I was raised that way. My grandpa was from India, and he was actually a Lutheran pastor, and so that's how we think about vocation and like how you walk in the world is like vocation is supposed to be where your talents and the world's great needs meet. And so that's all I've been sort of following. So thanks for the compliments.
It's good because it really does make a difference. And that's probably why you're in your second term even.
I suppose.
Because it does make a difference. Because I think especially, you're a younger generation than me, obviously. I'm got all these grays over here. But the difference is you can see the youth are viewing politics and changing the game with it. And they're so different than what it was in the past. And so it is refreshing to see. And I mean, I'm sure you can speak on that, on how your own, not necessarily political views, but how you approach it and how you think your generation's even seeing it.
I can just say it from the younger generation. Everything is completely different from what it was 10 to 15 years ago. It's like, as a financial advisor, I run and look at the finance and I have to see like it's a terrifying number of how many people don't actually have $5,000 saved up in their account if there was any sort of problem were to occur. And it's extremely sad because you got people working 2 or 3 jobs to still get by. And then you see the price discrepancy, especially in the Quad Cities, like the price discrepancy of trying to be able to pay your bills or if you're going to eat some food. And with the prices keep going up, we are, as people, are built strong. Like we're going to find a way to get out of it, but everyone's stressed. Everyone's having a hard time. And what I've just been seeing lately is like, if you wanted to buy a house, you needed to buy it at 12. Like a 12-year-old needed to buy a house 15, 20 years ago because some things that aren't changing, like the wage is slowly going up. But
we've had depressed wages for quite some time. I was just having this conversation.
I would talk to my clients and they're like, well, Ray, how much would I actually need to make if I really wanted to buy that house? I was like, well, technically you need to be minimum at $25-$30 an hour to get this house at this rate to keep it underneath. I preach financial literacy. That's one of my favorite things.
That's wonderful.
And it used to be the 80-20-20 rule. And then it went through the 60-20-20 rule. And now it's at the 50-30-10 rule, where it's saying like 50% of your income should go toward your fixed expenses. 30% should be going towards saving. And then the last 10% is going to be for fun and financials, trips and vacation. Everyone's living the complete opposite. You're seeing like 80% of their fixed expenses is going straight towards their fixed expenses. Then 10% saving, if we can save, and then the rest is fun money.
Yeah, and that's what makes communities not as healthy as others. I mean, people can't be involved, right? They can't nurture different parts of their life if they only can focus on bringing in money and putting food on the table and having a shelter overhead. Like if that is what they're living for because they're forced to, you know what I mean? That opportunity isn't there, or the social support network isn't there, or whatever it is. Like you can't parent well if you're stressed out all the time, right? You can't be a decent like sibling or caretaker for, say, your older parent if you're stressed out all the time taking care of those basic needs. It is a very difficult thing, and that is why a lot of this job and who I am is just like it's all about advocacy. Like you were saying, how much this place has changed, right? It's not as big as St. Louis, but like we have to still preach across the state. We're not flyover country, right? Like you need to pay attention to us. Like I said early on in all my getting on board on the train, the topic of the train, like all the attention for economic development cannot stop at Rockford, Peoria, and Bloomington, because I was seeing that's who was getting all of the attention, right?
Wow.
And if we were getting attention for some of the social service programs like coming out of Springfield, like childcare and stuff like that. But I want to partner on true traditional economic development. Like what can we do up here, right? So it's sort of a never ending battle, if you will, to be kind and say, pay attention to us, you know? And there are some reasons, you know, those are good communities. I'm not knocking the communities in the center of the state, but it is a different reality when you are here in a border community. You have to think really creatively. You have to pay attention to what decisions are being made downstate that make the playing field not as level as it could be. In fact, like just yesterday or the day before, I had written to our municipal league, and because they weren't supporting a bill from Senator Halpin that's meant to help business. It's attract business. You said, you know, attracting business, right? It's a grayfield, brownfield bill. So you would get tax incentives for coming and redeveloping places like South Park Mall, for example. Needs it. You know, and the municipal league had come out with a statement that they were opposing it as a revenue reduction measure, right? Like
Wow.
we wouldn't get as many funds through something called LDGF, it's local distribution general fund or something. And I said, we don't get much from that anyway. And we need to be able to compete. We need every tool we can get to attract developers here.
Yeah.
And so I'm very optimistic about many things, as you can tell. But I'm eyes wide open about a lot of things too. And that is difficult. Attracting developers is very difficult in the Midwest. It's just a thing.
Yeah. And actually, even, you know, I was at a legislative meeting earlier today. Mm-hmm. They were talking about that there and kind of not really going back and forth, but talking about how, you know, us being a border town, like you said, the obstacles of that, Iowa's got a lot of different relaxation rules that we have to follow over here. And, you know, when a business wants to open up, sometimes it's easier to just go over there and, you know, more power to them on how that is, I guess. But yeah, they're like trying to figure that fine line of relaxing some of those too, but yet still making it where the regulations are going to keep workers safe and all that other stuff also.
Yeah.
That's also important. But yeah, it makes it really hard when your competition is right next door.
Well, I mean, so that's what us as mayors have to pay attention to, right? Is we have to know what's going on not only in our state but over there.
Yeah.
And then we have to be connected to the folks downstate and every other place, right? To make sure that we don't get forgotten as they look to other parts of the state to develop. You know.
Yeah, and then I think like Rock Island now being a port city or something.
That port's helpful.
Hopefully that will really blossom and bloom and really help all the quad cities as far as
I hope so.
Goods and services.
I had a story for Ashley about that yesterday when we were chatting. So I was lucky enough to be part of the Edgar Fellows program. It's a bipartisan program that former Governor Edgar started about 12 years ago, maybe 13. He brings people together from both sides of the aisle, municipal leaders, lobbyists from different companies, and Democratic and Republican state reps and state senators, right? And you spend 5 days learning all kinds of things about different parts of public policy, right? That's one of the places where a major developer was like, yeah, sorry, we're headed to the Southwest and Georgia. Sorry. Like this, you know, there's a bubble. His words were, there is a bubble over the Midwest in terms of development. So anyway, we learned a lot of things. And they had a guy talking about ports and river traffic, business traffic. And he started talking, this guy was out of Des Moines, and I don't remember the organization, but he started talking about how they were going to bring business and goods up through Cairo, I think it was, and up into Joliet. And I said, wait a second, you know, Rock Island just got, you know, okay to have a port. Why don't you come all the way up the Mississippi and then ship stuff by truck, you know, or whatever, and put it on trucks and take it to Chicago if you really need to get there. But that wasn't in their plan, right? You see what I'm saying? It's like, you got to be paying attention or these people are going to forget about the Quad Cities.
You gotta keep
so
them, exactly.
I'm hoping, you know, I can help Ashley become a part of some of those watchdog type conversations where we're not getting forgotten.
Because they move quick, don't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just simply a matter of like somebody doesn't know folks up here, you know, and so they haven't been introduced to what's possible here somehow, right? So my thing is I feel like there need to be more people from the Quad Cities that work in state government down in Springfield.
Oh.
Because they have the perspective of what is up here.
Right.
To help people, say at Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, for example. Someone that is our liaison actually is from downstate Illinois, has a wonderful idea of the Quad Cities and understands a lot of stuff, has been very helpful. But more people like that, right? That get into positions that can say, well, have you thought about X, you know, X region of the state?
Yeah,
would be helpful.
The population here is really large. I mean, people
Yeah.
don't think about it, but we're almost at 500,000 as a whole. And
Third biggest city.
Well, that's what people reminded me that, related to this Grayfield Brownfield bill. When I wrote back and said, "Hey, you need to support this because it will help us," and then some of the collaborators up here said, "Hey, why don't you remind them of the demographics up here, that especially how large we are, because it's a bi-state region, and a bill like that isn't going to take so much away. In fact, it's going to give to this kind of community, if you can get that tax incentive going." So.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I don't know. Just look at the bridges, and I was thank goodness it's the new bridge, because I used to have to travel on that old bridge back and forth. That was, you had to leave real early sometimes. But just the amount of people that go back and forth and work over here and over there, the dollars are shared, so it isn't just Quad Cities. It's that side. They forget about that side of the Quad Cities, I think, in Springfield.
They do. We've experienced that as well with resources for law enforcement. It was Matson, me, Tomes, and our police chiefs, and another staff member who went and lobbied, I think in 22, with the ATF and the FBI for them to carve us out of like the laws so that we could be seen as one region, because like ATF has us in one zone and FBI has us in another, and they don't crisscross, right? It's like Iowa is its own thing and Illinois is its own region, and like that they're totally discounting the fact that it's nearly 500,000 people in this space. And we know they've carved it out in northwest Indiana, and they've done it down in the St. Louis area too. Those bi-state regions. But we had both sets of senators, both sides of the river, trying to lobby on our behalf, and they would not do it.
Wow.
So,
we
tried, though. We tried.
Yeah, because it really is. It is like just one big place, and people tend to forget that. And I'm sure they, on the Iowa side, they know it. They see it. They have, so many people.
Well, we're already cooperating with some equipment and police services and stuff like that. We're already cooperating.
Yeah.
So it's wouldn't be too hard.
Right. So if you had a little genie magic lamp for yourself, and you could, what would be your 5-year goal, 4-year goal, 3-year goal, whatever it would be for Moline?
Oh, Lord.
What would you like to see?
That's a good question.
That's a weighty question, Jesse. No, actually, I love that because, as I said, it's about helping the community achieve its potential. I want to see movement in the riverfront. We've got to start seeing shovels and bulldozers, et cetera, right? Like that downtown redevelopment is really, really important. I want to see housing go up. There are some apartment complexes, et cetera, that are in the works, like have already started work, but not ready to have people move in. I want to see, there's a project at South Park Mall that was close to completion recently. I want to see something happen down there. I want to see more people move back. I mean, it's been a steady trickle out of Moline for over 10 years for tons of reasons. It's not necessarily because Moline is a bad place to be or something, right? There's just a lot that goes into why people choose to be where they want to be, right? And you can see in news stories that the only populations that are growing in the Quad Cities are immigrant and refugee populations. That's not Moline specific. That's the whole Quad Cities. That's where the population is growing. So how can we grow everything, right? How can we attract more people to live in our towns, go to our schools, et cetera? It's a combination of everything we offer, right? And we're back to opportunity. Where's the opportunity happening? So yeah, I love the train should be here
from here
within 5 years. Yeah,
that would be huge.
That would. I mean, all those things are things that people have been fighting for a while, It's just that it ebbs and flows, and the players at the table change, and some players are cooperative and some aren't, and so the pace of change does this kind of right, and you can move ahead real fast on some things, and other things are just really slow and steady, kind of like the train has been.
Yeah. The train thing, that would be
huge. One, it will also save gas.
Well, like we should debate this. I've got people from the business world who think that the newer plan that they advertised of a 4-hour trip, right? You have to go down to Galesburg to pick it up to go to Chicago, as opposed to the direct route. Like, to some of them, it's a non-starter. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll spend an extra hour so that I can sit on the train and do work while someone else gets me where I need to go.
Correct.
Or I don't care that my kid would have to take the train an hour longer, to get to school, right? At least,
right.
It's what are the opportunities we're providing? Because I don't want people to migrate out because they lost their job or jobs changed, right? And then now we're not losing just one person, we're losing 2 people in a family, say, right? Because they have to trail with the other person. What if we could have them stay here while the person that needed a new job got a job that could work remotely, right?
Right.
But if you can get to Chicago or St. Louis or some other town twice a month or twice a week or whatever it is that your remote job requires, then you can stay here. Right. Then we're not losing teachers who might be spouses of people that need to, look for a new job. It's really about retention and then also growth. So my phrase has been, no stagnation, no isolation.
Ooh,
that is the guiding principle for development. Shirt. Yeah. With a big no symbol or something.
Well, I love that your answer is that you just wanted to see really progress and the best for everyone. I mean, that was a great first answer. Because it wasn't political. It wasn't about business. It wasn't about capital for the city. It was however that looks. I just want everybody to do better.
Yeah.
That's probably the best answer we could ask for. I mean, really, because there's, like you said, there is that fine line in politics, and the youth more than ever have pointed that out recently and showed people that, hey, we don't like that. And to see what side like you lie on or some of the others, they're calling it out and noticing now. And so it's good to know. It's easy to get behind someone who has plans, even if you don't agree with their plans, but you know what their intention is.
Yeah.
That makes
no guesswork.
Yeah. So I don't agree with that, but I know she definitely has.
I have somebody that comments on my Facebook who's like, I don't agree with you on all the stuff, but you're a good mayor. And I'll take that. You don't have to agree with me on everything, but yeah. Are we making progress? That's the thing. I've always been I don't want to say an anti-status quo, but I'm not comfortable with the status quo. I can appreciate the way things have been and the traditions we have, and not try to change everything all at once or even change everything, right? It's not about that. It is just like I said, like with a student, I teach to help my students achieve their fullest potential. I govern so that the community can achieve its fullest potential. It's the same thing.
Hand in hand. Love
exactly.
Oh, good. Yeah, I could sit here and talk to you over and over again.
I like to talk.
No, but it's fun because there's just so many things that I don't even feel we've touched on that we could, that I would love to get into, but I know we don't quite have the time for that.
Yeah, that's okay.
But still, I do appreciate you coming. Is there anything that you would like to say or ask to the people?
No, I'm just glad that you're talking to a variety of people. You're using this format to help people know more about what's going on, what the opportunities are, who's leading the charge, so to speak, and all that. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I will say, you have been excellent with me. Very patient. So please, along the way, especially since you're a teacher,
Yeah.
Give me a call if you see me doing something. Call
no
me out online.
No problem.
Let me know.
problem.
Say, hey, Jesse, you might want to get that. Hey, I'm
No.
up for it. I need to do better too. And it's always good to have people around you that have the experience and knowledge to kind of help push you to do better.
Yeah,
Also. So,
I have those kind of mentors too. It is very helpful.
So please reach out when you see me stumble.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you coming. Do you have any last questions?
All
Okay.
right.
Well, we will definitely have to do this again, whether it's on the same format or another.
Yeah.
I would like to tell everyone, please like, comment, subscribe. Definitely share it, get that across, and get that out to everybody. Come to Moline, see what Moline has to offer. Come check out both sides of the river and see what the whole Quad Cities has, because that is one thing I will say at the end. Talking to some of the other mayors I spoke to, everybody seems to want to work with each other, which is nice.
That is great. Synergy.
Yes. So yes, please like, comment, subscribe again. Can't say that too much. And thank you for being with us today. Have a great day.